President Buhari blames incessant building collapse on greed and professional negligence. Says culprits will face the law.
That those responsible for such incidents of professional negligence will feel the full wrath of the law.
INEC schedules Adamawa supplementary governorship election for Thursday.
And better days ahead for farmers as federal government sets to reposition Bank of Agriculture.
Where we intend to partially privatize the Bank of Agri and sell 40% of the shares to farmers and reduce interest rates in agriculture to 5%.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall focus on managing electoral victory.
All right, the 2019 general elections, of course, have been conducted, but now we know that apart from Rivers State, which is still indeterminate, Adamawa has been fixed for tomorrow. Kingsley?
That's right, Claire. Now the presidential and National Assembly elections, plus the governorship and state assembly elections have come and gone, as the saying goes, and currently we have 27 governors-elect out of the 29 states where the elections were conducted, save for the two states, that's to say Rivers and Adamawa, which you just mentioned.
Indeed, Kingsley, it has been a long, drawn, electoral season, of course, with the intrigues, attendant intrigues of political campaigns to the actual battlefront at the polls and the declaration of winners by the Independent National Electoral Commission.
Of course, Claire, victory has not come easy for the winners, as most of them, as it were, literally survived the onslaught of their opponents to emerge victorious.
Now, in many states across the country, we've had reports of widespread celebrations and Thanksgiving services by winners. And of course, trust Nigerians not to miss out, as we know the saying goes, success has many brothers and sisters, if I may add.
And uncles and fathers, of course. Now, but as the celebrations are ongoing, some are counting their losses, while others have vowed to challenge the outcome of the elections at the courts.
All right, so as the saying goes, different strokes for different folks. So, Kingsley, what should be the disposition of the winners and the losers? We have antecedents.
Definitely, there's no doubt about that. But certainly, after the swift victory at the elections comes the tougher questions. What next? How will you manage your electoral success? There's a hard work, of course, which relates to governance. But then how do you put together your team to help you achieve your goals, in particular realizing your electoral promises, often derived from the manifesto of your political party?
Indeed, Kingsley, and also how do you reconcile aggrieved members, those who lost out for one reason or the other? Now, these are all challenges, of course, that will need to be managed, to make for better unity.
Well, no doubt
about unity.
Yeah, well, no doubt about that. But of course, the kind of electoral system that we operate is such that it's called the first past the post. No matter how close the results are, the losers will always be losers. And those who have won, of course, would like to take credit for it and then proceed with their agenda. So the task, of course, is enormous for those who are victorious and for those who are also licking their wounds. More particularly, how do you put your team together and how do you begin to roll out your agenda? For those who are already in government, it means continuation, obviously.
Obviously.
Yes, obviously. It means continuation.
But that's the critical issue. How do we ensure that like you said, the zero-sum game, winner takes all,
winner take all.
Winner take all.
Yes.
Okay, it's done in such a way that, it becomes a non-zero game.
Well, that's part of what we'll be looking at this morning, Claire, when we have our guests who are persons experienced in politics and governance, who will be discussing how to manage more effectively electoral victory. And that's our outlook for Good Morning Nigeria today. My name is Kingsley Osadolo, and I welcome you to the program.
And I'm Claire Adelabu Abdul Razak. We're broadcasting live on the network service of the NTA, Africa's largest TV network. We have, as always, the complimentary part of our program, which, as you know, we'll be looking at newspaper review, the business, sports, foreign and arts and entertainment. But right now, Abdul Malik Adio is in the studio and he's ready to give us the morning news. Malik?
Many thanks, Kingsley and Claire. It's good to have you join us on the morning news. President Muhammadu Buhari is assuring Nigerians that those responsible for the incident of professional negligence, especially in project execution, will face the full wrath of the law. This was while granting audience to the leadership of the Nigerian Institute of Quantity Surveyors on a courtesy visit.
Young, innocent lives must never be lost due to incompetence and greed. Simply put, no corners must be cut. I want to assure you that those responsible for such incidents of professional negligence will feel the full wrath of the law.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has received the judgment of a Court of Appeal in Sokoto State concerning the sponsoring of candidate by the APC Zamfara and currently studying the judgment. To this end, the presentation of certificate of return for the Zamfara State Governorship and State of Assembly election scheduled for Wednesday, 27th of March 2019 has been suspended. Similarly, following the discharge of the injunction which stopped the governorship supplementary election in Adamawa State in a case filed by one of the political parties, INEC will now conduct the election on Thursday, 28th of March 2019 from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. in the 29 registered areas. Now, the federal government is to collaborate more effectively with the Chartered Institute of Taxation towards achieving greater momentum in diversifying and expanding its revenue base, infrastructure, and social service, as President Muhammadu Buhari stated this while receiving in audience the National Executive Council of the Institute, and said this will go a long way towards meeting Nigerian security needs.
Zero tolerance for corruption and a sense of pride in the Nigerian project. We believe that Nigeria shall achieve greatness with the right foundation that your administration is laying. CITN, with over 22,000 members, is ready to partner with your administration for a better Nigeria.
Now, Buhari's pursuit of autonomy for the legislature and the judiciary is a positive development in the political history of Nigeria, and it is quite laudable. The Buhari Media Organization, BMO, in a statement signed by its chairman, Niyi Akinsiju, and Secretary Cassidy Madueke, made this comment in its reaction to the inauguration of a presidential committee on the autonomy of state legislatures and judiciaries in line with the fourth alteration to the 1999 constitutional amendment. The group says it considers this a positive development in the political history of Nigeria because for the first time, a proactive and decisive move is being made to make the second tier of government work for the people at the grassroots. BMO says it is also gratifying that the federal government under President Muhammadu Buhari is strengthening the country's democracy by guaranteeing separation of powers among the three arms of government, even at the state level. And the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development is set to revitalize the Bank of Agriculture. The Minister of Agriculture, Audu Obe, stated this when he defended the ministry's 2019 budget before the National Assembly Joint Committee on Agriculture.
It is the intention of the National Assembly to pass the present budget by the first week of April, God willing. So we want your cooperation in this regard.
Where we intend to partially privatize the Bank of Agric and sell 40% of the shares to farmers and reduce interest rates in agriculture to 5%.
And wife of the president, Aisha Muhammadu Buhari, has been conferred with the Grand Diamond Excellent Award by the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC. The award is coming as part of the organization's 25th anniversary in recognition of Mrs. Buhari's contributions towards the promotion of health and general well-being of women and children in Nigeria.
As a worthy partner, I salute the effort of NAFDAC and pray that the agency will continue to grow stronger and stronger.
In a related development, the World Health Organization classified rating for Nigerians' Food and Drug Administration and Control has advanced a step up with a target to attain the highest level. Action already marched with words as the federal government has released a grant of 500 million naira to the regulatory agency NAFDAC to upgrade its operational facilities.
NAFDAC will be part of the most prestigious regulatory agencies in the world. We have to satisfy 287 indicators and dotting all the I's, crossing all the T's. That's what we are doing now.
And that's the Good Morning News. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Kinsley and Claire in a bit.
Àbùkù ò ní kàn ẹ́ o. Ayé ò ní rí ẹ mú o. Ò ní dààmú, ò ní ṣìrìn, ò ní rí mi. Ó yá wọnú ògo tuntun lọ. Ẹlẹ́dàá mi. Ẹ tàmí yín kọ́. Ṣé ìwọ ti rókun tó gbẹ rí? Kò lè gbẹ bí. Àwọn ò lè sọ̀rọ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀. Ó yá fi sí spíkà. Ẹ̀bùn látọ̀mù mi gbé wá fèmí.
Get 5 times your recharge value to call all networks without restrictions. Recharge and dial *234# to enjoy this offer. Available to new and existing customers.
Airtel,
the smartphone network.
When I was a little girl, I loved spending time with Mum and Grandma cleaning the house. I was so excited to sing in the choir.
And your shirts are always so white.
I knew what Mum's secret was. Today, I'm a modern woman that still trusts the secrets passed down to me. It's Jik, of course. The original trusted bleach, which can be used all around your house for amazing results.
Shh, it's our little secret.
It's no secret. It's Jik's best ever extra whitening power. Just Jik it.
A new edition of TV Guide is out with special focus on the role of the media in election coverage. Exclusive on the National Broadcasting Commission, its mandate as the sole regulator of Nigerian media. Dr. Toba Daba then and Ishat Modibo Kawu now. This edition also features the king of stand-up comedy in Nigeria, Ali Baba. NTA standards to be ready for election transmission after decades of abandonment. Find out from the DG transactional elections in our political space. An evil wind that blows no good. DG, National Orientation Agency Council. TV Guide, your indispensable companion, x-rays the impact of social media on electioneering process as electorates present their expectations from incoming government. Meet some TV professionals behind the screen and other inspiring stories in sports, entertainment, and lots more. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or NTA stations nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
Team huddle.
But we lost.
Don't be tired, guys. This isn't a loss. It's a practice for winning.
Nothing makes a mother prouder than seeing her child growing up. But I know as he learns to lead, he'll face even more dirt, germs, and risk of illness.
That's why in changing seasons, you need strong Dettol protection. Because Dettol protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Growing up needs Dettol protection.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now, business news is next, and here is our correspondent, Joy Uzo.
The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN's Monetary Policy Committee meeting has reduced the monetary policy rate, which it increased since July 2016. The MPC decided by a vote of 6 out of 11 members to reduce the monetary policy rate from 14% to 13.5%. The MPC also voted to retain the asymmetric corridor at plus 200 and minus 500 basis points around the MPR, retaining the cash reserve ratio at 22.5%, as well as the liquidity ratio at 30%.
Staff forecasts indicate that inflation will commence a marginal upward trend from March 2019 through May 2019, when prices are expected to begin trending downwards.
Meanwhile, an economic expert says the reduction in rate is good for the implementation of the 2019 budget, which is largely dependent on borrowing, as it will ease the cost of repayment on the federal government.
The cut may not be deep enough because it's just 50 basis points, but for me it's a signal that going forward we may be entering into an accommodative monetary policy environment, which is good for the economy. And I also think that what has happened now will help, of course, increase liquidity in the system, and part of that liquidity will surely flow into the capital market, especially the equity segment of the market. And if you also remember, part of the 2019 budget will be financed, the budget deficit will be financed through borrowing. So what this means now, again, is that the cost of issuing bonds, it will now be cheaper for the government to borrow.
In another development, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, has advocated that technology firms like Google, Facebook, and the Amazon be further taxed as part of a wider review of what it calls outdated global corporation tax rule. Director General of the IMF, Christine Lagarde, said governments must react to growing concerns that digital companies pay little tax in most countries where they operate, which denies vital funds for public services and welfare. A report this month shows that 150 of the poorest countries lost about $200 billion in revenue per year. And the United Nations World Food Programme has welcomed a contribution of $2 million from the government of Japan that will provide life-changing support to people and communities affected by insecurity in northeastern Nigeria. This partnership is to fund stability across communities in northeast Nigeria. Japan's contribution will support more than 48,000 women and men to rebuild their livelihoods. Finally, the equities market lost marginally, depreciating for a second straight day as market sentiment remained negative. The Nigerian Stock Exchange All-Share Index depreciated by 0.01% to close at 31,038.86 basis points. Its year-to-date YTD returns currently stands at 1.25%. 143.7 million shares exchanged hands in 3,457 deals. Market capitalization dropped to 11.6 trillion naira. Market breadth closed negative as Mobil led 18 gainers as against 20 losers at the end of Tuesday's session, showing improved performance when compared with previous outlook. And that ends business news. Thanks for your time. I'm Joy Uzo.
All right, newspaper review is coming up next on Good Morning Nigeria.
Our newspaper reviewer, Bayo Atebe, is right here in the studios. Bayo, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Kinsley. Good morning. Good morning, Claire. Good morning, Nigeria.
All right. There are three principal stories that we have on the front pages of our papers for review this morning: politics, economy, and of course we'll pick up one human interest story from inside the papers. Let's take a look at the leadership. Leadership front page. Unfortunately, we have leadership on the front page below the nameplate, immediately below the nameplate of leadership newspaper. It says President Muhammadu Buhari and APC pick Lawan as Senate President. That will be for the 9th Assembly. With two riders, Undume kicks, and what happened in 8th Senate, regrettable. That's attributed to President Buhari. Now, it's also the lead story for the Daily Independent newspaper. Daily Independent says, crisis brews in APC over Senate presidency. Crisis brews in APC over Senate presidency with a number of riders there. Undume rejects party's endorsement of Lawan as Senate President. Says elected lawmakers have right to choose presiding officers. PDP senators ask APC to leave Saraki out of power tussle. National Assembly may witness surprises in June, that's according to the PDP, and says members can join race for Senate President and Speaker. For the Nigerian Tribune, it says as follows, with a kicker, that's a lead story almost mid-page. 9th National Assembly, Lawan and Gbajabiamila's adoption unconstitutional. And that's attributed to Senator Undume. And APC ought to learn from 2015 experience. He says, no outsider will impose Senate President on us. That's according to the PDP caucus. Details can be found on page 2. There are other political stories, by the way. Claire, I'm sure you can have it.
Yes, I have the same stories, headline stories, again in different form. Let me begin with the Daily Trust caption. APC, PDP set to clash over National Assembly leadership. And the writer there as Ndume disagrees with Oshomole. Turning to the Daily Sun, 9th Senate presidency consensus splits APC. And three riders, senators elect kick over party's adoption of sole candidate. I won't step down, vows Ndume. Outsiders can impose our leaders. That's coming from PDP. And the Punch says on its front page, Senate presidency, PDP wants APC, while Ndume tackles Oshomole. I think we should pause right here for a bio too.
Well, it is expected. Indications have emerged that the Senate leader, Ahmed Lawan, may be recommended by the All Progressive Congress as Senate President when the 9th Assembly resumed in June. Daily Trust says the recommendation came from a meeting that was held at the Presidential Villa. At that meeting, it was attended by the President, 11 APC governors, the chairman of the National Chairman of the All Progressive Congress, as well as senators-elect. Other contenders for those positions included Ali Ndume, Danjuma Goje, and Abdullahi Adamu. The All Progressive Congress, according to the national chairman, said they had 65 senators, although it didn't indicate whether it included the 3 senators from Zamfara that apparently now will be losing their position, as well as 223 House of Representatives members elect. The national chairman said, Nigeria voted for us to take charge of the executive and the legislature. The meeting is to discuss the leadership question in a win-win situation. We don't need to do business with what he described as the opposition when we have the numbers. He observed that out of the 16 senators that actually dumped the All Progressive Congress, only one was re-elected to entertain the members in the red chambers. He said the YPP senator-elect who attended the meeting, he described him as a smart guy who wants to belong to the People's Party. Senator Adamu Abdullahi, former governor of Nasarawa State, is being tipped to be this potential Senate leader, while Danjuma Goje is also trying to get back to his former appropriation committee chairman. Daily Trust also report that Senator Ali Ndume says that the senators-elect were not consulted and therefore imposing leaders on them is unconstitutional. Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari used the occasion to reflect on the functions and activities of the 8th National Assembly. He says that the actions and decisions of the 8th National Assembly remain very regrettable. He told the senators-elect that the All Progressive Congress that there was deliberate and persistent delay in passing annual budget. I feel it shouldn't take 7 months to pass the budget. After this, my 5th and last time of standing an election, I liked to leave something behind. And the president said, this cannot be done successfully without your support. He promised to work with the National Assembly for peace, for stability, and economic prosperity of Nigeria. The other political stories are related to political developments in the states.
Yeah, that's right. Let's just run through those headlines from the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. Above the nameplate and also below the name flag. CBN slashes lending rate to 13.5%, calls for rebasing of economy. And beside that, it says jubilation in Bauchi as INEC declares Bala Mohammed governor-elect. And INEC suspends issuance of certificate to APC Zamfara candidates. APC kicks as INEC hosts supplementary poll in Adamawa tomorrow. Also there, Ajimobi to Oyo PDP, focus on development issues, not campaign of calumny. That's on page 8. And on page 4, 42 parties in Kano reject result of supplementary election. And also back to the Daily Independent newspaper, Daily Independent, from the mid of the front page, we have this story, 2018 budget. That's the first column from the right-hand side. Reps uncover 1 billion naira spent on mapping by a surveyor's office. It said that the money was spent on the mapping of 2 states. Reps uncover 1 billion naira spent on mapping by a surveyor's office. Federal government to harmonize oil and gas revenue. Army calls for sack of Algerian president. And so those are the stories. But by the way, there's a story. I would like to take very quickly.
Yes,
I'm sorry, just before you come. Okay. This is because this is the last one I will take from the Leadership newspaper. There's a story there. It says, Poly lecturer, on the front page of Leadership, Poly lecturer commits suicide. That's in Auchi, Edo State. Details on page 14. And then right at the foot of the front page, it says, Supreme Court Justice Bage emerges new emir of Lafia.
Okay, just to follow up on the human angle story, at the foot of the Punch, you have evil spirit made me to rape 7-year-old girl. That's according to suspect. It's right there on page 8. And just turning to Daily Trust again at the foot of the paper, husband killing. I have no case to answer. Miriam Sander. And we have an update on the Abuja Dev School. If you remember Byron Kingsley, the federal government's panel had submitted its report on, of course, sodomy. The paper, that story is on Daily Trust on the inside page. I know, Bayo, you have an update on that.
Yes, actually there was cases of allegation of abuses of pupils and students of that school for the deaf. And there were very grueling and sad stories there. And the Ministry of Education took up the challenge what was put in the public domain because it was, in fact, elaborately discussed on some public broadcast media. And therefore, the Ministry of Education must sanitize the place because those pupils have become victims of the people who are supposed to take care of them. But meanwhile, on the political stories, Governor Muhammad Abubakar of Bauchi has congratulated Senator Bala Mohammed. And he says in a statement, I congratulated my brother, Senator Bala, on his victory at the polls. I am delighted that in spite of the intensity of campaign in our dear state, a peaceful election took place without bloodshed. He also invited the governor-elect to join him in working in a smooth transition process. However, he admonished supporters to be law-abiding in celebrating so that campaign is over now. What remains is governors. Adamawa, the PDP has won majority of seats in Adamawa State House of Assembly. Result declared by Independent National Electoral Commission shows that Peaceful Democratic Party has now won 13 seats, All Progressive Congress 11, and African Democratic Congress 1. Currently, in the 8th Assembly there, APC has 23, while PDP has 2 seats.
Okay, yes, let's quickly take the editorial. Unfortunately, we don't have time to talk more on the Abuja Dev School incident.
Yes. I know, Claire, that story is very important. At some point, I think there has to be focus on some of the schools, particularly for children with disability, to the extent that there is no persistent and consistent focus on goings on in those institutions. That is why allegations of this nature, of either sodomy or mistreatment, would continue to come up, from time to time. There was some reports some years ago about such a school in Enugu, where pupils of the inmates were said to have suffered the kind of mistreatment that we're talking about.
All right,
it's similar to cases of rape, where victims naturally feel reluctant to come out. Parents are reluctant to put their children in spotlight, and actually the children have been abused. And so something must be done about this.
We really don't have much time.
Yes.
We must look at this editorial, of course, on from the New Telegraph, and it speaks to the issue we're looking at today on Good Morning Nigeria. It's titled Inclusiveness in Buhari's Second Term. Let me just take a paragraph or so. What is this paper saying? It says, now that the elections are all but over, President Buhari must begin the arduous task of healing and bringing the people together, irrespective of tribe, religion, or party affiliation. Of course, that's the core of this editorial. And what did he recommend, Bayo? Just to say that it has commended the call by the Arewa Consultative Forum, that's the ACF, on President Buhari to ensure that the new administration keeps to its promise of, I'm quoting from the paper now, strengthening our unity and inclusiveness in government so that no section or group is left behind or left out, unquote.
Yes, editorial is well-intentioned, and simply it is saying that the president should take the initiative to look at his first term, and if there were lapses that were identified, particularly from indications across the country, that those voids should be filled in this second term. And specifically, they are drawing attention that the president must make bold effort to ensure that our unity in the nation is strengthened. Campaign was very divisive and very bitter, but campaigns is over. Now what we have is governance, and therefore all parties should come together. Majority party, minority party should come together to build consensus, to move the nation forward. And they said the president, as the father of the nation, must lead it. And he's already indicated that after this is his fifth time of seeking and the last time of being in power, I like to leave something behind. And what they're saying we should leave behind is a nation that is united so that we can have a strong and a virile economy.
Kingsley.
All right, Bayo, thanks a lot for being around.
Thank
you
you
again
too.
tomorrow.
Tomorrow will be another
we'll take a short break now. Of course, when we return, we'll be dealing with managing electoral success.
My name is Smart. I'm a professional electrician, and I only use the best cables in Nigeria. Nokako is one of Nigeria's most leading cable manufacturers. Nokako carries out rigorous quality control tests on its products at every stage of the production process, so its high quality is maintained throughout the full length of the conductor that meets both national and international standards. These cables are manufactured in a state-of-the-art cables and wire plant equipped with the most advanced machinery and processes. Nokako is certified by the Standard Organization of Nigeria and is an NIS Diamond Award winner.
Be like Smart by Nokako.
The dynamics of modern media management require top-of-the-mind administrators. Accordingly, NTA TV College JOS invites administrative officers on grade levels 8 to 12 in private and public media organizations to a 2-week intensive capacity building course on fundamentals of media administration. Date 1st to 12th April 2019. Course fee 80,000 naira per participant, accommodation inclusive. Venue NTA TV College premises, Rayfield, JOS. Take advantage of the course to empower your administrative officers with modern skills for maximum performance. For further inquiries, contact 0803 314 4383 or 0806 980 9807. NTA TV College JOS, training you to be the best you want to be.
A new edition of TV Guide is out with special focus on the role of the media in election coverage. Exclusive on the National Broadcasting Commission, its mandate as the sole regulator of Nigerian media. Dr. Toba Daba Ben and Ishak Modibo Kawu now. This edition also features the king of stand-up comedy in Nigeria, Ali Baba. NTA standards to be ready for election transmission after decades of abandonment. Find out from the DG transactional elections in our political space. An evil wind that blows no good. DG, National Orientation Agency Conference. Trading Guide, your indispensable companion x-rays the impact of social media on electioneering process as electorates present their expectations from incoming government. Meet some TV professionals behind the screen and other inspiring stories in sports, entertainment, and lots more. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or NTA stations nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
All right, this is Good Morning Nigeria. Welcome if you've just joined in, and conversation begins right now. But let's set the tone for it, and don't forget, we're looking at managing election victory. Here is Kunle Adeye as he spoke to some Nigerians on the street.
Those who emerged victorious in this in the just concluded 2019 election should carry along everyone, those that vote them and those that did not vote them. They should know that they are voted to serve the whole of their people, whether constituency or state or the nation, in terms of president. So they should carry along everyone in terms of developmental projects.
Those who have won election should do what they told the people that they will do when they get to government. You see, we have had this problem of, I will do this, I will do this, I will do this. But when they get there, we start seeing a different thing. So if they go there, let them do what they told the people that they will do. Because if they don't do that, they have made the people to have the people will not have confidence on them again.
The people that voted them into power should not be abandoned. From that point, they'll be able to get feedback from people that this is what we need. It is not when you are elected and you forget your people. And you can see that with what happened in 2019 election, the country is evolving election-wise. So if you don't do well, for you to come back after 4 years, it will be difficult for people to accept you.
They must have had their own goals. They should implement it. We are not looking at the parties. We are looking at each other as brothers and sisters. We are all one Nigeria.
All right, thank you very much, Kunle Adeye, for that Vox Pop. And now, joining us in the studios to discuss this issue in further detail, would like to welcome His Excellency Ibrahim Shekarau, former governor of Kano State, also former Minister of the Federal Republic, and now Senator-elect. Your Excellency, pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yes.
Also here with us in the studios, familiar face on Good Morning Nigeria, one of our regular analysts, His Excellency, the former Deputy Governor of Abia State, Dr. Chris Akumas. Dr. Akumas.
Thank you for her.
Good morning and pleasure to have you.
Thank you. It's nice to
you were not on the ballot this time, so...
All right, just to say that all our guests, of course, are right here in our Abuja studio, and we have the chairman of course, the Federal Capital City, that is Abuja Municipal Area Council, and he is Abdullahi Adamu, known popularly as Candido. Candido, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Nigerians. Good morning.
And by the way, you know, Candido himself was on the battlefield, and he just won his re-election as chairman of AMA. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
You said you saw him sweating it out.
Of course, he was sweating. He's looking much more handsome now. Okay.
All right, let me also welcome not a new face here, Otive Ibuzo. He's the Executive Director, African Center for Leadership, Strategy and Development. Mr. Ibuzo, thank you. Quite some time.
Thank you, yeah. Thank you.
Good to have you with us.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, gentlemen, once again, pleasure to have you with us on Good Morning Nigeria. But let's just begin with this human touch, if you like. We know that this has been a long, drawn-out process. First of all, becoming a candidate, and therefore the primaries that the candidates aspirants had to go through. In some of the parties, it wasn't quite a smooth process. And now, fine. So former governor and now senator-elect, tell us, how do you feel looking back and then seeing the outcome?
Well, I think I want to say it is so far so good. Why I'm saying this is that, you see, we've had some time, some consistency, some continuity in the process since 1999, regardless of all the difficulties, the crises, the going in and going out and so on. I think the fact that we were able to sustain the various transitions from one civilian administration to another, as far as I'm concerned, that is a plus, and we sustain it. One of the areas that I think poses a very serious challenge to us now is the internal democracy. That's why I said nearly all the parties, particularly the so-called big parties, had crises. There, we still have the tendency of manipulating, the tendency of imposition, dictating, not allowing. And once, I always argue, once you get it wrong in the primary process, the general election can hardly be smooth. And it angers the electorates, and you hear cases of what you call the anti-party and so on, and the crisis. So I think on the average, we're making some progress, regardless of all the problems, the continuity of the democratic process. You can see the challenges, the turnout. If you look at all the, particularly the National Assembly, there's always more than 60–70% rollover of the new ones. So one needs to find out what exactly is the problem. We are still yet to differentiate, and I think the parties and INEC and all the agencies concerned have the challenge of trying to educate the public between the role of the executive and the legislators. Most of the problem, most people out there see, they don't differentiate. They expect the legislator to bring in construction of roads, schools, and so on. And if you don't do that, they think you're not performing. And that's why the executive is always quarreling with the legislature in terms of this, what they call the constituency projects. We are yet to appreciate the fact that the lawmakers are there to checkmate the executive, to make laws, to make proposals, not necessarily to the fact that every lawmaker is looking like an executive in his constituency has to bring this project and the another. So I think, as far as I'm concerned, in spite of the challenges we have, we're making some progress. We'll be able to sustain the democratic process, but the internal process. Another factor that I think I want to also point out is the voter education. Up till today, last election, it was barely 33% turnout. Anything less than 50%, I think, is not good enough. And it's the responsibility of the political parties, INEC, leadership, local leadership, traditional, religious. When it is time for registering the voters, everybody is concerned. We have 82 million registered voters. And we end up electing a president with 15 million. I think it's a very serious challenge. All the elected people, as far as I'm concerned, are not representative enough of Nigerians. So,
yes, I still like to re-echo Kingsley's question. Did you also have to sweat? Did you sweat, to get your victory,
well,
on the field? Yes.
At the primary level, fortunately, I don't think I will call it I sweat, but I lobbied. We moved around, and after joining APC, there was the agitation. Before I came in, there were about 3–4 aspirants. And I lobbied around, requested them, they all withdrew. Well, 2 did not, about 6 of them. 4 of the aspirants withdrew. I went into the primaries with 2 others, 3 of us. I had about 900,000+ votes. The person next to me had, I think, 48,000. And the lady, with all due respect, that challenged me to ended up with about 19,000. And I think that was a very good one. I was happy that at least I said I won election.
I would also, Kingsley, as we move forward, I would like you to speak more on the lobbying issue, because when we talk about lobbying in politics, you know, we get a different idea. So we want to know how lobbying is done and then how you will address it. But let's again return to the man whom Kingsley saw sweating it out at the battlefield. That's the chairman, the re-elected chairman of AMAC. So how was the political turf?
Well, sincerely, just like you said earlier, if anyone pretend not to have sweated, may likely be a pretender in this case. Personally, I sweated. I must confess, and it was, a two-way traffic. There was an inclusive internal party primaries, which, of course, it was not too severe, but you cannot call it that it was just a walkover. I competed with a lady, and she was also a very strong lady, and sincerely, she gave me a very good fight. But at the end of the day, in politics, there's no number two. I was able to emerge as number one, so I took the day. But in the final analysis, during the final election, which was the secondary, I think that was where we really saw the sweat. And you remember in the Federal Capital Territory, the presidential election was not a very good one for the party I belong to. Unfortunately, we lost out, though after putting in everything we could. Having lost out, we now have to, re-strategize, because we had 2 weeks before the area council election. And by God's grace, we were able to make it after the 2 weeks. So even though we had complete 6 area councils belonging to APC, but you can agree with me that having sweated, we only came out with only 4 area councils. So PDP got the 2, and that is, now you can agree with me that all of us sweated. So it was not an easy fight, but to God be the glory. We're out of it now, and we're only ready to, commence governance. It has been so good. Well, thank God for that.
Well, of course, that's chairman of, is the chairman of our local government area.
Yes,
that's where we are here in the Federal Capital Territory. That's Abuja Municipal Area Council. But of course, let's bring in the other guest now, Dr. Chris Akumas, former Deputy Governor of Abia State. Your Excellency, after the victory comes the serious part. From your perspective, what are those issues that should now be ticked off as on the checklist ahead of inauguration and then getting on to the business of governance?
Thank you very much, Kingsley. Let me start by congratulating those that participated in the contest, the main elections. Some of us couldn't make it through the primaries. But I want to congratulate all those that participated, both those that have won the elections and those that didn't win or were not declared. Everybody that participated in one way or the other have helped and is helping in growing our democracy. So I congratulate them and urge all to now move to the next level, which is your question of how do we, move from here, having fought the battle. So the battles have been fought, won, and lost. My advice here will be, first, whoever got declared or that won should first think, his thinking mood now should be we, not I. Because this attitude of I, my, me, is not as impactful as when you have the mentality of we. Because when your mentality has to do with we, you think of the collective, of everybody, and you are not thinking of party A or B. Having been elected as senator, His Excellency is now senator of the Federal Republic, not senator of, yes, he's representing a constituency. in Kano, but he is a senator of the Federal Republic. So he must, and others must think of the country, Nigeria, and the unity, the well-being. That's one. Two, you have won, yes. There is need for all those that want to now review. How did I get here? Was it due to my personal efforts? Was it due to chance or luck or opportunities? Was it due to contributions and support from others? Or was it due to, circumstances? When you review that, it will help you think better. And when we know that in politics, just like he said, you cannot win alone. People must work with you to be able to win. And when you know that people contributed in making that victory effective, you must always have those people that contributed in your heart, in recognizing them. Even picking their calls alone can make a lot of difference. Because what happens, some people once sworn in, they cut off. They don't even talk to the people. Now, my experience as to going forward, managing victory, whether election victory or success in any venture, has to do with leadership qualities. And if that is the case, what are those qualities that are required in order to make this victory inclusive and effective?
We'll pause you, put you on hold on that. Let's bring in Dr. Ibuzo. Dr. Ibuzo, deductively from what Dr. Akomas has said, it is very important, to, first of all, congratulate everyone who has taken part or who took part in an election. In other words, congratulations will be a first step. Is it symbolic, and how might it help to heal the wounds of probably having been left out?
Yeah, congratulations are very necessary. They are symbolic. They help to build unity, and they help to remove the bitterness that usually follows political contest. But unfortunately, in our climb, only a few people are able to congratulate, especially those who have lost. And but if you look at it critically, you will not blame many of the people because of what happens on the field. If you lose free and square, then it is easier
to accept the
for you to congratulate other people. But if you see the trajectory of elections in Nigeria, as His Excellency said, there is a lot of improvement in certain areas, but there is a lot of also drawbacks in other areas. If you look at it carefully, elections started in Nigeria in 1923, and since then, researches, and even commission report indicated that there was a progressive degeneration of the outcome of election up to 2007. But from 2011, there was a reversal because of the various, reforms that were put in place. And those reforms have increasingly made the voter important. Because by 2007, you don't need to be popular. In fact, scholars dubbed it, that was the time they brought capture machines. And scholars dubbed it capture of the sovereignty of the people. Because in Delta State, I remember very vividly, the election was on Saturday. Some areas were postponed till Sunday. And people were on queue on Sunday when the result was announced in Abuja. But increasingly, we don't have that kind, because at times many Nigerians don't remember those trajectory. We don't have that, at a time, it was easier. I mean, both of them are politicians. They understand what I'm saying. It is easier for politicians to buy the electoral officers and get vote on one polling unit. If there are 500 registered people, you get the 500 a block. It's easier than going to campaign at one time in this country. But all of those have changed. That is why you see vote buying has taken a new dimension. It's not that, they will tell you, it's not that they've not been buying votes since the beginning. But the voter is becoming more important. But the negative aspect of it is that politicians are becoming more desperate and devising new ways to circumvent free, fair, and credible elections. For instance, during the run-up to the elections, we heard, politicians buying PVCs. And people were saying, what is wrong with these people? How can you buy PVCs? Because if you buy PVCs, you can't use it on election day. But we didn't know that they were smarter. Because what we heard, allegedly in some places, is that they did not just buy the PVCs, they labeled it. So the PVCs for one unit is known. So on election day, you compromise the electoral officer, they accredit all those PVCs. So you don't need to bring the voters, you just vote for them. So that if the law requires card reader, your figures will fall in within the... So what I'm saying is that going forward, there is a lot that needs to be done about participation by citizens and conduct of the political elite.
Does it, sorry, Kingsley, does it, that's the behaviors, the pre-election behaviors, and of course the post, does it affect the post or how a winner conducts, himself after winning an election?
Definitely, definitely. Two things. If a winner uses crooked means to emerge, then people will see it. And the response of people to the victory will be different. But it also now depends on the personality and character of the winner. Some people are able to be more measured. And I think that the president set the tone of how election victory should be celebrated. Don't gloat. Don't, mock people who lost the elections. But it now depends on the individual personality and character. There are people who won with very little margin, but their celebrations are larger.
Louder.
Louder, yes, than other people. So I think, and one of the challenges with the political system is that some people don't learn. If you look at the trajectory of the result, despite all the challenges, you will see that some people who were apparently very loud, loquacious, and boastful were humbled during the elections. Because Nigerians are becoming more enlightened and aware. And there are things that, affect the elections. So for instance, if you take some instances, take Kano, for instance. The president won in Kano very easily. But the governor struggled. Why? Because of the allegations. And voters are critical. They know that there is difference between presidential ticket and governorship ticket. You see in some places, YPP won the senatorial seat. I'm sure the vote of the senatorial seat will be more than the vote of the presidential candidate. Why? People are looking at individuals. They are looking at, so voters are becoming more enlightened. It can always become better.
All right, Dr. Otiba Igbuzo, thank you very much. In fact, some of the points that you have made would clearly be an elaboration on the part of the checklist that Dr. Akuma has talked about. Review how you won. And that will also affect your mindset. My question next is going to Malam Ibrahim Shekarau. Part of what Dr. Akuma said is the mentality of a victor who is either continuing in office or about to assume a new office. His prescription is adopt a we mentality rather than an I mentality. You've been successful as a governor in terms of the election, and now you've also won as a senator-elect. Give us a sense of how difficult or what is required to process that thinking to say it is now we rather than I.
I think that was a very good observation, that this aspect of I versus we is very crucial. And as my colleague here said, it's all a matter of individual perspectives. You see, it depends on who is it, what was his antecedents, what was his experience, where is he coming from. You see, if a candidate just jumps in with a money bag and buy votes and do all the fraudulent things and emerge, that's where he was always thinking, it's me, because right in his senses, he doesn't believe that it was his capabilities and his competence, his experience that gave him that success. So he reduces it back to himself. And so I think, going back to what I said earlier on, the internal process is part of what needs to be addressed, to bring in people who really are being supported by the people. Once you bring in people on the premise of their capability, their ability, and you allow the internal process to be free and fair, right from the beginning, the candidate will believe that it is we. The success is not just me, it was the people that decided. If I may take, with all sense of modesty, in 2003, I beat an incumbent of a party that was saying the biggest party in Africa. PDP was at the center, PDP was all over the place. I came in with the NPP, and I beat a sitting governor with over 200,000 votes. So I knew it was people's decision. And that compels you to really think of the people. Even if you are initiating a project, you remember that there is a burden. So it has to be people's-oriented project policies and programs. So I think once we're able to get it right in getting people into office by people's decision, right from the contest in the internal democracy within the parties, that will be the beginning of this we aspect. And of course, when it gets to the general election, allowing people to vote freely. I'm worried, as he said, with this vote buying and collaboration with the INEC people. Another issue that I think, to avoid this buying the conscience of the INEC people, I am looking forward to a time when, just as we do, coming from my background, recruiting examiners. You know, if we recruit you, if I recruit you as an examiner, you are kept on. You will be growing up to chief examiner. So I am beginning to see that INEC is using too many of the ad hoc staff. At least at a certain level, I don't mean retainership, kind of. If you are retained as a what do you call it, returning officer at a certain level, you can keep on regular refresher training in-house, INEC inviting you, so that the way the examination body retains examiners, they are not a full-time employment of the examination bodies, but the experience matters. But in a situation whereby you are recruiting new corpus every time to come and be the returning officers, to be the polling agents. So it is always entirely new. They don't feel responsible, no experience, nothing. 2-3 days briefing does not help. And they wait to be paid by the highest bidder in the parties, and they get compromised and allowing people to come. There were instances where a man will bring in a woman's voter's card and will be allowed to vote. Some people will come
Madam Shekara, thank you very much. Of course, for some of our viewers who do not know, of course, his background, of course, is in education. And at some point, he was Honorable Minister of Education in this country. Claire, the point relating to manipulation of the electoral process, there are some matters arising. We'll keep those matters in abeyance and revisit them at some point. I'm saying this because if you recall, I don't think you and I were on set on that occasion, but the day after you were on set, the question always arises, how is it that you have overvoting? And who is responsible? You know, actually those are critical issues. Probably it is when they're having all these additions that Dr. Otiva Igbuzo was talking about, where PVCs are being brought in, so that's when they miss out all the figures. I'm sure Madam Shekarau would know that because himself is also a mathematician.
And another point is that our failure to punish the culprits. Any ballot box that produces more votes than the registered voters, the polling clerk, the man managing, the returning officer.
There are no sanctions for them.
Exactly.
There are no sanctions.
The man managing the card reader. Where were you to allow all these things to happen? And they just got scot-free and nothing happens to them.
Very important point. Yeah, I think that, Claire,
yes,
let's
like
also
to bring
go to
in
the AMAC
chairman.
Continuing chairman.
Okay, Chairman, I'd like to draw from your first-term experience, you know, in managing your victory. You got re-elected despite the hot battle, you know, during the presidential election. So can you share, you know, the burden of how you managed your first-term victory?
I think it's a... You see, when you are talking about managing victory in election, I think it's a process of healing. And in that case, you ensure that whatever you are going to put in must be participatory and all-inclusive. For instance, when I got my first tenure, what I did was, of course, during the party primaries, we were almost 10 in number that contested for the chairmanship. And I made sure that at least 8 or 9 of them joined me in government. Because they may not be chairmen, but they have one or two responsibilities that they can as well carry out. And that was a way of, you know, healing the wounds and making sure that everybody, you know, have this feeling of self, being carried along, like it's a common language in the political parlance. Everybody is feeling a sense of belonging. And so I brought them in and we were working together. And that also healed the process. And of course, ensure that when I got this second mandate, right, most of those that competed with me, except this one that I told you that I had to sweat with her. She contested the first time and contested the second time again with me. But all others did not contest again. They were all my supporters. You can see the beauty of, you know, all-inclusiveness. And so it brought about a lot of tension therein. And that is to say that if we're able to, you know, ensure everybody have this kind of sense of belonging, it is going to bring down to, you know, to some extent, this, you know, idea of people feeling hurt and therefore they cannot support whoever wins this ticket. So let me, from this point of my observation, maybe appeal to all political parties. And in particular, let me reduce it to my own political party, which is the APC. I think we should learn. We should begin to learn that the winner must not take all. It mustn't be. It must be a way of, you know, people being allowed to also contribute. Even if you didn't win election, You should be brought in so that you can contribute your quota. It is possible that the person who lost election may even have a better agenda than the one that wins. So if we have this kind of thinking, it is going to bring about, all inclusiveness in governance, and then you discover that everybody will be participatory, and then the governance will be easy to carry out, and then the people will be better for it.
Very well. Thank you very much, Candido. Now, back to Dr. Chris Akumas. You were already taking off some of the points. You may wish, therefore, to speak further on the aspect of the we thinking rather than the I. How difficult is it for you, therefore, as a victor, to be magnanimous and say, this is a we agenda?
That's where I was going to.
Yes.
The we is very important. And when I talk about the we mentality and the fact that it is more impactful and better for us all and for the society, it goes beyond one's immediate party activities. From my own experience, when we won elections, we came up, there was an idea, I did a small concept note, which was accepted by my governor. We organized meetings in groups, and we were inviting people, even those that were in court with us, to talk about the state. Okay, now, what a victory is achieved. To be magnanimous, you have your vision. That vision, you also have a strategy. The vision should be fixed, but the strategy must be flexible. Because it's like a compass, your vision, you are looking at, okay, this is the direction I'm going, whether north, east, or west. When the compass points to a place, it will not tell you that if you are going to the south, that you will have to pass through creeks, through, erosion sites and all that. But it's pointing to a place. So, but for you to get there, you must prepare yourself and know that in some cases you will have to circumvent those erosion gullies. You will have to think of how to pass through the creeks. You will have to think of how to go through the riverine areas, but you must arrive at a point. And if that is the case, that vision of going on must be achieved, you have to involve people, because if you go and meet a community where they don't understand you, you must talk to them and bring them. Not everybody will agree at a time, but you continue to talk to. He talked about lobbying, and I heard you say people think about lobbying differently. And that is a mistake we make. What are they doing where we borrowed this democratic system from? It's lobbying. They lobby people, they talk to people, they consult. Though people buy into your ideas, some may not. And more importantly, not everybody that contested, had beautiful and best ideas, but some do. When you bring people together, you can also make something and enrich whatever ideas you have. So when we talk of we now, you'll be saying, you have this idea. I'm happy that during the campaigns, there was that push for people, for the campaigns to be issue-based. So to a large extent, people were forced to say certain things. And whoever conceived an idea must know something that the listener may not know. So there is nothing wrong bringing people together now. Going forward, it is a better way of managing the victory. So as you do that, you may reduce the number of even the litigations going forward. Some may decide to withdraw. We had that experience. And when that happened, you can manage election victory starting from that contest period. I used to tell people, we will go to INEC meetings and all that, and I'll say, hey, if I win, you support us, okay? If you win, we will support you. Don't go to court. Let us talk. And I can tell you about 3 or 4 kept to that. And so when we got into office, it was my duty to remind others that I made this pronouncement, and these people have kept, they have been gentlemen, let us all work together. And that happened, and it helped. So now going forward, people should not look at those that fought, except they decide to continue to fight. But talk to them, bring them close, let them understand that it is we, not I, and that tomorrow is still available. It could be their turn and their chance tomorrow. Okay? So it is important that politicians, both those that won and those that didn't win, should now begin to think of the place. If you came to contest, it means you had an idea to serve and you want to serve. Whether the person wanted to serve himself, he must have said something that he will do for the public. So let us, you know, try and bring people close. I want to give you this story. Somebody was always making noise. And I had to go to talk to him. I said, why are you always causing trouble? He said, don't you also consider me a security risk? Don't you know that as security risk, I should be managed? Okay. So I said, please come again. So he said, yes, you have security votes.
Manage me.
And I have my people. Why don't you manage me so that I stop giving you trouble? So let us begin to manage people. That was why I said that it has to do with leadership qualities, because you are talking of managing success.
Okay. But Dr. Tive, he has talked about leadership quality. Now, if you consider all the dynamics that played out, you know, prior to the election, and of course the intrigues and the name callings and all that, how easy will it be for, of course, the ruling party, which came out victorious, you know, to implement the we factor?
I think that it's not whether it's easy or difficult. It is in the best interest, even of those people, even of the ruling party, to have this we mentality. Because whether we like it or not, the race for the next election has started. And the way you manage your victory and bring people in, and of course, there's one area of managing the victory which is service orientation. Because if you manage the victory, you settle all security risk people, but you don't deliver services to the people, you know, it will be challenging. And actually, I have a huge challenge in the country today about how governance is done and about how resources are spent, but poverty is increasing. That Nigeria today has become the headquarters of poverty in the world. Now, I don't think that people really see what that means. In the past 15 years, it used to be China. Because in absolute numbers, China has over 1 billion people. Nigeria has less than 200 million people. So Nigeria is not up to 1/5 of China's population. So for the past 20 years, it has always been China hosting the largest number of poor people in the world. But Nigeria has overtaken it. We need to ask ourselves, why is this so? And my argument is that it's because for the past 20 years, plans, policies, and budgets are not translating to services. And recently I was just reflecting, and what occurred to me is that a new template for governance is being used, especially at the state level. What is the new template? The new template is make all the budgetary allocations to 3 offices. This is very important. I'm raising it here so that people can begin to deal with it. Make budgetary allocations to the governor's office, to House of Assembly and office of the Secretary to the government. That number one. Number two, appoint thousands of SAs and PAs, at least 3 per ward. They have no office, no job description. They don't go to work. The only work is that when election comes, deliver your unit or don't return back. And then the budgetary allocation is essentially to recurrent or to administrative capital. So when you build chairman's office or chairman's residence, it's classified as capital budget. But it's not capital budget that will generate more employment or lead to services to the people. So what you see is that, let me give you an example. We analyzed Delta State budget from 2007 to 2019, 12 years. Only the budget, not going to the actual, what government say they will do. And what we found out was that budgetary allocation to government house was more than 8 ministries. And budgetary allocation to House of Assembly was more than 7 ministries. And budgetary allocation to Office of Secretary to the Government was more than 6 ministries. And then budgetary allocation to former governors was 21 billion naira. So, at the end, so it's not by accident that you saw Success Primary School. So what I'm trying to say is that, and if you come to the even federal level, when the government started, they increased the budgetary allocation to capital to 30%, and we're all happy. But this 2019 budget, capital budget has decreased to 23%. You know, and what do you call it? Debt service is more than 23%. So what we are using to pay debt is more than our total capital budget. And that capital budget includes administrative capital. And by the way, administrative capital includes workshop.
And seminars.
Yes.
And seminars.
All right.
So what I'm saying, what I'm saying,
just hold on, please.
You know what we would like to do? We would like to pause you at the moment, because you've raised again another salient point, just like the other guests have done. We're talking now about the template for governance, using the state and the federal level. Now, out of what you have said, there are a lot of other issues which we would deal with as matters arising in subsequent editions of Good Morning Nigeria. But there's one which is part of managing electoral success directly. And my question is going to Malam Ibrahim Shekarau. What we find is that usually when there is a victory in an election, particularly say at the state level and also at the federal level, you have all kinds of persons who are seeking appointment, who get appointed. In some states, I'm sure you used to know, there were hundreds of persons who were appointed as SAs, SSAs, and so on and so forth. These persons, I mean, some would say virtually jobless, but they were on the payroll. How can such be mitigated? How can such be mitigated?
I think this also goes back to the issue of the individual in office. You see, with all due respect to a number of people who get elected, there was a time I challenged. I said, if you ask a sizable number of those elected, many of them today, I will not be wrong, more than 70, 80% of those who go into election have never read the manifestos of their parties from cover to cover. You'll be surprised if you go to many of the offices of chief executives, they don't even have copies of the manifestos of the parties. So it begins with the feeling that I am coming, it is their mindset that forms the manifesto. And when they come in without programs, without this we aspect attitude of coming to serve the people, This brings in the issue of how many people I carry to share money to. It's like sharing the money, so that there will be, whether you bring in project or not, giving them such frivolous appointments, whether they have any role to play or not, is preparing the ground that to go and cushion the agitation and the expectations of the people. So I think a solution to this, I still insist, goes back to electing right people in office. Once those who go into office know that they are there for the service and they're there for what they can offer, it's not a question of how much money I share out to people. It's meeting the expectations of the general public in terms of your people-oriented project, in terms of your policies and programs of the government. So I think the only solution to that is we still go back to the issue of who is there to contest. What was the process in getting the candidates? We today have an experience, a situation whereby in a whole state, a party is almost losing all the positions simply because they refuse to comply with the due process in the primaries. Somebody sitting just somewhere and dictating, you be state assembly candidate, you be this, you be this, you be that, without going through the primaries. And because I am in a certain position, my decision must be respected, forgetting that there are laws governing some of these things. And you don't expect people coming through this process in office to even remember that there is need for a program, there is need for a project, people's-oriented project. Their concern is how many people do I appoint so that I shut them up without the agitation.
As a security risk.
As a security risk.
Just before we let you go,
yes.
We know you have a plane to catch.
Yes.
Briefly, from the game theory perspective, that's, of course, the winner take it all. How might we structure our political system, such that no one feels left out, and we revert to probably the non-zero game theory?
I think this is very, very important. I don't want to plug this issue. It is still the attitudinal thing. I remember in 2007, when Yar'Adua got elected, he really came up with the idea of all-inclusiveness. He invited all the other political parties. He wrote to my party, MPP, and said, please come and join hands with me. It's not the issue of I'll give you minister this or advisor this. No, the issue was that let's come together and see what went wrong. It was my party, we gave 6 conditions for him to accept, and one of it was the electoral process has to be reviewed. It was an AMPP's idea that led to the Ways Committee. It was part of our condition, and he respected it. And another thing, as an opposition leader there, as an opposition governor, I was in AMPP, Yar'Adua was PDP. He invited all the governors. He said, there is nothing I will not do without all of you. We've won election now, let's forget about our parties. And you'll be surprised. He said, there is no one appointment I will make in any state without consulting you. So,
even as an opposition.
Yeah, exactly. So he was inviting us one after the other. One day he just put a phone call to me, Governor Kanu, please come over. I went. He said, I'm appointing a minister from your state. I want to nominate X. Do you know him? I said, yes. How is he? How does he work with the people? How does he live? How responsible is he back home? When we agreed that I have no objection as an opposition governor, he said, it is you who will go and inform. It was me. As an opposition governor, AMPP was PDP, it was me who went and told that gentleman that go and see them in the presidency, you're going to be made minister. And because of that, I called my 3 senators, all of them were AMPP then. I said, this nomination was done with us. You dare not oppose it, because we know he is fit, he's qualified. So it's not an issue of because he is coming from PDP nomination, you dare not. We were involved. Because Yar'Adua's argument was that I cannot sit here and see my minister, my advisor, going back home to quarrel with the governor. He's my representative there. We must work together. How I wish that man lived much longer. He was really out to make a difference. And this is the way it should be. So a situation whereby people think the winner takes all, you don't involve anybody, and it must be me, I must take all, that angers the opposition. And he goes back to his trenches and start planning how to undo you and scuttle the government. And then you find that you are not moving forward. You've won election, yes. Let's go together. Exactly. Good governance is the main thing. So I think
inclusive government.
Exactly, inclusive government. So this issue of who is it will also eliminate the question of where are you coming from. The needs are the same. The poor man in Enugu is the same poor man in Kano, the same poor man in Abia, in Adamawa. They need basic things. The day we come up with leadership at all levels that will be fair, credible, and people who really know where we are going, the Nigerians will allow some continuity.
Yeah. For good cause, Malam Shekara, we will detain you for a few minutes longer.
No
take this. Yes, take this question along. The other guests, of course, will also have the opportunity of responding. Okay. How can we therefore transcend the mindset that is obstructionist towards what you have just narrated?
No, I think it goes back to the issue of voter education and general education and an awareness. As I told you, there is no excuse where we'll have voters and we end up with people to come and register. They don't even care. Which means the president is to see 20,000 people times 36. It's not up to 800,000 people. The president will finish touring rallies in all the country. He has not seen up to 1 million people. Because if you multiply 20,000 times 36, it's just about 700,000 plus. And people will think that he has carried the day. And when they lose election, they begin to wonder, where was all this crowd? But mathematically, they didn't know that you have not seen up to 1 million people. When you see big rallies at stadiums, you say, oh, this is already carried, finished. But those of us that are conscious of figures, we know that you have not seen up to 1/10 of the people that will vote you. The president was elected by 15 million people. But in all the rallies, he went to all the states. He has not seen up to 1 million people. He has not. So you find that we need to educate the people, find a way of the politicians, the parties, and everybody. It should be everybody's business when the election comes. We are not helping matters. We are not bringing, I still feel we are not doing enough to carry the voters
we need to take a break.
So I think education of the voters and enlightening them, that's why when I came to government, one of my major projects was societal reorientation. That was my dearest program. And it succeeded. It's part of what brought peace in Kano. Societal reorientation program. We made sure the public are enlightened and educated. You must come and participate, and we initiated a number of things. So this is the only solution, education.
All right, this is Good Morning Nigeria, and we're discussing managing electoral victory. We'll take a short break. We've got tweets coming in.
If you hear a bomb explosion or gunshots of an active shooter, that might be a terror attack. At such times, always remember 3 action words. Run, hide, report. Don't try to run towards the terror scene to save the situation, because there might be a second bomb blast or another attack. Run far away and take cover. Make sure you are safe first. Yes, it is in our nature to sympathize over the hurt, but remember, only trained personnel can help in such situations. When in a secured environment, promptly call relevant authorities and help will come. For anonymous reporting, call 09630-3250-5 or 0813-2222-106. If you see something, say something. Nigeria unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Chief, good morning, sir. You are here already?
No, now my spirit day, my body day for house. What kind of question is that? Were you not the one that fixed this meeting for 8 a.m.? You are now coming by 10 a.m. and start asking me job questions.
But Chief, now, I'm sorry. Don't you also go late for meetings sometimes? You know now, African time.
No more African time. And no more pancaking of face during office hours. At the end of the day, we will lose valuable time. We will not make progress. If we want to move this nation forward, we must treat business as business and respect time. Change begins with me.
Thank you, sir. I'm sorry. Can we go for the meeting now, Chief?
Later.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored, and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous, whether you do it for fun or for political gains. Real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA.
All right, you're welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. I'm sure for our viewers, you've been enjoying the conversation by all our guests. Four of them, the Abuja Municipal Area Council Chairman, Abdullahi Candido, who has just won his re-election, Dr. Otiva Igbuzo, and former Deputy Governor of Abia State, Dr. Chris Akumas, as well as, of course, former Governor of Kano State, former Minister of the Federal Republic, and now Senator-elect from Kano, Malam Ibrahim Shekarau. One way we can gauge our viewers' reaction is the torrent of tweets that we're having. Just before we take those tweets, of course, we would like to appreciate Malam Ibrahim Shekarau for his participation in our discussion. We hope to have you going forward on some of our occasions.
Regrettably, we're letting you go.
That's right. Since Abuja will now be your new base.
Oh, I think so. I'm always available.
All right,
it's a pleasure being with you, and I wish we'll get it right all along.
All right. Thank you very much, Ibrahim Shekarau.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ibrahim Shekarau, former Minister of Education, former Governor of Kano State, and now Senator-elect. All right, so let's quickly take our tweets. Claire, we have a number of them. We'll just go through them. This is coming from Godwin Aki Abia. It says, the winner should talk like a father, a friend, and extend his hand of fellowship to all. This will create automatic peace and give everyone a sense of belonging.
And then Jack Solomon tweets, how real losers and their supporters deal with their loss could have a significant impact on peace and security in the country. Now, this is why winners must romance, in quotes, losers, to enable winners fully concentrate on pressing public issues like hunger, unemployment, poverty, when inaugurated.
Now, Francis Jethro tweets, it says, great job, NTA. The winner should be magnanimous in victory while working together with the losers to move Nigeria forward. And by the way, no winner, no loser, as long as Nigeria is concerned. Only if politicians understand that they are working for the country.
And Mike Anyakwo, the disposition of winners of 2019 general elections should be people, people, and people. They should jettison the old-fashioned winner take all. They should immediately embark on policies to better the welfare of the electorate, to whom much is given, much is also expected. Law
Alpha C, winners should also thank the losers and welcome their ideas and suggestions towards development of the country, thereby ensuring peace.
Ali Baba Mai, lucky ones that won the elections at various levels shouldn't celebrate now because they have a huge task of nation building ahead of them.
Now, this from the Twitter handle DW Nigeria Limited. Winners should extend their hands of fellowship to losers in good faith and not because they are mandated to do so. The main purpose of winning an election is, first, to better the lot of the public.
Festus Akibonyewa, winners of our general elections must be magnanimous in victory. They must work for unity and promote the common good of all Nigerians. They must not see themselves as APC or PDP or any other political party, but rather they must see that we are all Nigerians.
Now, Amagbola has this tweet. One other way winners can manage their electoral victory is to consider the possibility of a unity government where some of the programs of the opposition candidates can be harmonized to better the lot of the masses. After all, they all came out to make life more meaningful for the people.
Patience, Tomo, the winner should be magnanimous in victory and carry all along. Give appointments to capable hands from other parties. This will even prevent movements from party to party if all are carried along. This is why U.S. politics is different and they are progressing. They involve all.
Now, this is coming from A.K. Ogman. It says the winners should work assiduously to improve on their past records. That's for those who are re-elected, while the fresh ones should do better than their predecessors.
Okay, Alpha C. Unfortunately, Nigerian politicians are selfish winners in the sense that they see opponent as enemies who should die because they lost.
Now, Husseini Baba May tweets, election victory is shown by how you execute your campaign promises. We expect those who are elected to be sincere and trustworthy.
Aminu Modibo, to manage election victory is to carry everyone along, whether they did you or not. That's justice.
Ashiru Mohammed has this tweet. Now, fairness demands that those who emerge winners should be accountable to all their constituents, irrespective of whether they elected them or not. They should be responsible and responsive to the people by delivering good governance at all levels.
Again, Dele Jack Solomon, it's God Almighty that gives power and he gives it to whoever he pleases him. Common sense has it that genuine winners in the just concluded general election would rally losers of the elections to tap from wealth of the experience for the general well-being of the states and constituencies.
I just skipped to Akeju Olagbaju. It says electoral victory should be equated to success, and the theory of managing the latter should be deployed. It should be seen as an opportunity to extend the joy of that victory to all political friends and those in the opposing camps.
All right, Kingsley, I think those are the tweets. Okay, I have a final one from Abdul. If you really want to achieve much in governance, then an all-inclusive government must be key. Unnecessary distractions should not be brought to bear in the running of government in this dispensation. We should have a government that caters for the majority.
All right, those are the tweets that we have right away. Let's bring in again the former Deputy Governor of Abia State, Dr. Chris Akobas. You listened, of course, to what the historical background provided by Malam Ibrahim Shekarau as to what went on. You may wish to speak on that, further in terms of how that can also further shape, if you like, the we mentality, the inclusiveness, and the fact that, whoever has won, AMAC chairman, he has AMAC as his territory to govern, not those who voted for him. A state governor, he has the entire state, to govern. A president, he has the entire federation to govern. But in doing that, how do you cater for your supporters?
That's opponent is not happy, the other person,
they could win tomorrow. So we should bring everybody on board. It is not that I must win everything and then take everything home. It is not possible. So I advise, right, that we should embrace an all-inclusive, process of governance so that everybody will have a sense of belonging. Every part of the country will feel a sense of, inclusiveness in this process so that everything done in a process of good governance, you see that everybody will be happy about it.
Otiba, should we leave this inclusive government to the disposition of the winner or the winners?
Well, I think it's difficult to legislate those areas. But increasingly, experience is teaching us that if you run an all-inclusive government, you are not, it's a win-win situation. It's not just that you are doing favor to the other people. You are also consolidating your governance, increasing your reach, and making the possibility for winning other elections. If you look at even our own recent history, from when the APC won the election in 2015, and then when the APC won the election now in 2019, you see the approach is a little bit different. The president has set the tone in this 2019 that he wants to run an all-inclusive government. And I think that we need to unpack what that means. You know, an all-inclusive government will mean different things. First is that, you know, people in opposition, if they are competent, they may be given opportunities to serve. And also ideas from opposition can also be given opportunity to blossom. Now, like the chairman said, for some people, it's not even to serve in government. If you take their ideas alone, they will feel part.
Fulfilled.
They will feel gratified and part of the government. That is one level. The second level of inclusivity is to ensure that women, you know, are given their due place. One of the things you do in society that you make people to continue to lose confidence is when you have laws and policies and you don't implement them. There is a gender policy that in all appointments, women should have at least 35%. And the president has also made the point that his new administration will include more women and men, and also to include persons with disability. And he also includes people who do not belong to any political party, but they are Nigerians and they have capacity. In fact, what some governments in Nigeria have done in the past is to have a search party to go around the country and say, look, we need to do new things in agriculture. Who can help us?
Dr. Tive, we need to pause you here because we have a second part of this program coming up.
Well, we'll see how that goes. There are a number of course, it's obvious now that there are a number of areas that we still need to touch and elaborate on. So it's almost inevitable that we'll have a second part, of course, depending on how our programming schedule will permit it. On that note, we'd like to thank our three remaining guests who've been with us this morning. Dr. Tive Igbuzo, of course, is the Executive Director of the African Center for Leadership, Strategy and Development. Thanks a lot for your insights.
It's my pleasure.
Appreciation also to the Chairman of the Abuja Municipal Area Council, Abdullahi Adamu Candido. Always a delight having you on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much, my pleasure.
And as always, our deep appreciation to Dr. Chris Akumas, His Excellency, as former Deputy Governor of Abia State. Thank you very much, Excellency, for being around on Good Morning Nigeria. Let's go over now to our foreign desk.
Algeria's Army Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Ahmed Gaissallah, has demanded that President Abdulaziz Bouteflika be declared unfit to rule after weeks of protest against him. The army chief called for the use of Article 102 of the country's constitution, which allows the Constitutional Council to declare the position of president vacant if the leader is unfit to rule. He further stated that the constitution was the only guarantee to preserve a stable political situation. President Abdulaziz Bouteflika has already agreed not to stand for a fifth term in the upcoming elections, which have been delayed, and demonstrators have accused the 82-year-old of a ploy to prolong his 20-year rule.
All right, that does it for today. We thank you for watching. Don't forget, we have a repeat broadcast later today at 5 minutes past 5 on NTA News 24.
All right, my name is Kingsley Osadolo. I join my colleague Claire in thanking you for being with us on the program. We're back tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Until then, enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye-bye.